In this screencast, we're going to continue our discussion of noun phrases in English, looking at demonstratives and quantifiers as different subtypes of determiners. Last time we talked about noun phrases in English take the structure, the syntactic structure of determiner noun, and we had the examples of a book and my book, the article, a noun phrase with an article, and a noun phrase with a genitive, but we also have noun phrases of the type this book and that book. And these are called demonstratives. So the demonstrative is a third type of determiner. Now, we're going to ask ourselves whether or not we're going to compare and contrast determiners versus pronouns, because these words, this, that, these, those, can also function as a pronoun in the syntax, in the structure of the sentence. So let's compare these. We could say this book is blue, or we could say this is blue. We could say these markers are new, or we could say these are new. So in the sentences on the left, the demonstrative is helping to identify which item, and they're being used as determiners. And on the right, the demonstrative is replacing the entire noun phrase, right? If we just say this is blue, we mean this object, right, that is unnamed. And in this case, we can see that the this and these, the demonstrative is a determiner, and in the examples on the right, the demonstrative is standing for an entire noun phrase. So it's functioning as a pronoun in these sentences. Now, as a reminder, we I can't see that. I'm going to scroll down my thing just a little bit. As a reminder, determiners cannot, this is not a rule that we have talked about, that determiners and pronouns are not inside of a noun phrase together. So we wouldn't say the, we, or it would be kind of odd to use something like my, she, right? We wouldn't put determiner pronoun together in a single noun phrase. And also, we can't have a determiner by itself inside a noun phrase. We talked about how determiners do the work of helping us explain to whoever's listening or reading whether we're classifying that noun in the noun phrase or we're identifying a specific noun by using that noun phrase. So again, classifying or identifying. If I say this book is blue, is that more classifying work or identifying work? Ask yourself if in that sentence it's clear that I'm referring to a specific or the set of books. Remember the picture, either I'm pointing to one of the set or the set in general. Another strategy to try to figure out if it's classifying or identifying work is to consider whether if it's more similar to the prototypical a or the prototypical the articles determiners. So is this book is blue, is that closer to a book is blue, or is it closer to the book is blue? So I think it's, in my native speaker intuition, the demonstratives are closer to the identifying function. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on because we have one more to go through. We have this pattern that a noun phrase can be made up of a determiner noun, and we have these examples, but we also have a fourth subtype of determiner called quantifiers. And quantifiers give are words that refer to a quantity, like many, few, two. So we could say a book is on the desk, or my book, or this book is on the desk, but we can also say many books are on the desk, few books are on the desk, two books are on the desk. And in the noun phrase shape, these quantifier words take the same slot in the sentence right before the noun. So we have that this pattern, determiner noun, has that same shape, even though there are different types of different sets of words called articles, genitives, demonstratives, and quantifiers. They all kind of do the same thing in the sentence structure inside the noun phrase. So we have this overarching label of determiner that highlights the similarities of these and how they work in the sentence. All of these work as determiners. They're all showing us doing the same kind of work. Let's again ask if quantifiers generally are classifying or identifying. If I have a sentence, some students had forgotten their homework, is that identifying or classifying? Am I pointing to a specific members of the set, or am I pointing to, is it unclear which specific members of the set? Now it's plural, so it's okay if I'm pointing specifically to more than one of the objects. The question is, am I pointing to a set, and the individual specificity is not needed, or is it, or do we know which exactly students forgot their homework by this sentence? Another question is would you, if you had to use the prototypical determiner, an article, and replace it, would you replace it more with the indefinite or the definite? Now this is tricky because the indefinite doesn't work with plurals, as we know. So is it more unspecified, like students had forgotten their homework, or is it more like the students had forgotten their homework? To me, this is more classifying, because in one, if I told you I was complaining in the teacher's lounge that some students forgot their homework, if you came into my classroom, you wouldn't be able to identify which students had forgotten their homework. You would know that a subset of my students did, but you wouldn't be able to identify which individuals forgot their homework. Let's look at the next example. I handed the student 2 books. In the noun phrase 2 books, do you know which books I handed the student? No. So it's a little bit more classifying. I'm saying of the whole set of books in the whole wide world, I handed the student 2 of them, but I haven't specified which 2 specifically that I handed. So again, one of the linguistic tools of analysis that we use to identify how words are being used is by using the syntactic information. Because we know that words of a certain category, like determiner, tends to occur with words of a specific category, like noun, in a certain order. We don't say car the, we say the car. So we can use what we know about the patterns to help us identify the syntactic category of that word. So this is a little bit of a challenge. We have a noun phrase here, the 2 cats drank milk. What's the syntactic category of the word to here? Well, we could say that it's a quantifier because it gives us information about a quantity, and in the last example we said 2 was a determiner. But wait, this noun phrase already has a determiner, the 2 cats. So can we have 2 determiners back to back? Can we say the, or the cat, or any other of the combination? Would we say this cat? Well, not usually, right? We wouldn't normally a noun phrase does not take 2 determiners, because a determiner has a job of classifying or identifying, and we don't need 2 of these little words to do that work. So let's try to substitute. If you look at these examples, you can see that we could replace the 2 with black or small, and that would be grammatically the same. The meaning may or may not change. I would say it doesn't change if, when we say the 2 cats, we're referring to the cats in the real world that are small and black, right? We could be referring to the same reference in the world. So in one way, the meaning doesn't change because we're referring to the same cats. However, the sentence doesn't express exactly the same thing, because unless you know the cats and you're looking at them, you might not know that they're black and small. So in this case, you can see how the 2 is showing up in a place that is a adjective slot, because we can, in English, noun phrases can be determiner, adjective phrase, noun. And of course, we've talked about this. Some noun phrases have no determiners. We can just say black cats drank milk, or small cats, we would need that to be plural, drank milk. So here's how linguists talk about this. We have said that noun phrases can be made up of determiners and nouns. We haven't said this very much, but determiner, we have seen lots of examples that noun phrases can just be a pronoun, like I gave the student 2 books. I is just a noun phrase on its own. But we also saw variations, such as determiner a noun phrase can be made up of a determiner, an adjective phrase, and a noun, or a noun phrase can be made up of a adjective phrase and a noun. So what we might do as a linguist is abstract that to a general pattern, saying that a noun phrase can be a pronoun, but it also can be, a noun phrase can also be made up of a determiner, which may or may not be there, but usually they are there, or with an adjective phrase and a noun. And again, the adjective is in parentheses because it's optional. We don't have to stick an adjective inside the noun phrase, but we certainly can. So when we talk about determiners, it's in all of the syntactic categories, it's important to think of the prototypical, and as I said many times in this screencast, the prototypical determiner is an article, and because the indefinite article has restrictions, the definite article, the, is the prototypical determiner. So anytime you want to test if something's a determiner, try substituting it with the prototypical determiner, the. So you may want to ask yourself, do teachers need to teach the concept of prototypes as an idea to elementary students or specific subgroups of people who might be learning this? And where might you use this idea of prototypical in your classroom? We touched on linguistic tools of analysis. We're going to talk about that in another class.